All right, on to our top focus. 53 medicines have failed the quality check test in India recently. And these include some of the most often used medicines like paracetamol, citrazine, hydrochloride suspension, Pandi, Shelcal, calcium tablets, vitamin D3, Monter LC Kid. These are all random batches that were picked up for testing. Several pharma companies are under scanner. Some of the names include, and we're just naming some of them, Sun Pharmaceuticals, Glenmark Pharmaceuticals, Alchem Laboratories, Hetero Drugs, Karnataka Antibiotics and Pharmaceuticals Limited, Hindustan Antibiotics Limited, Hindustan Antibiotics Limited, Torrent Pharmaceuticals, and so many more. The drug companies have denied responsibility for spurious drugs. They have claimed the problematic batches may be counterfeit, could be fake versions of the product. So where does this leave you and me?
One of the drugs that's found a feature in this list of 53 odd drugs that's been put out happens to be something as basic as a paracetamol. Now, this report goes on to talk about how the paracetamol here, IP500, was manufactured at the Karnataka Antibiotics and Pharmaceutical Limited. Now, remember, this is indeed, in fact, a government enterprise that's run both by the state and the centre. And one of the drugs that was produced over here hasn't met the basic quality standard.
Right now we are standing one of the companies which is in the Baddi location, and in fact this is also the company that was making the medicines, in fact, and even that has failed the samples, and even the Central Drug Regulatory report concluded that these medicines are not of standard quality.
Nobody is ready to speak. They are not even ready to divulge the detail of what kind of medicines are prepared here. Initially, they even denied that Cefixime is even manufactured here inside this company. They said that we'll be talking to. When again we tried to speak to them, they said that we will not be. The PRO is in the meeting and other officials are in the meeting. They will not be speaking on camera.
All right, now sources from drug regulator panels have claimed that not standard quality is a very minor issue. Such lists are released every month, and it shows how all these drugs are being constantly monitored. In fact, they claim that most of these issues are very minor, but not life-threatening. But don't popular drugs used across Indian households, from children to the elderly, failing safety quality standards, raise bigger questions on overall safety of drugs? And what must you and I do as a consumer? We're going to look at this with a panel of experts. Let me introduce my panelists at this point. I'm being joined by Dr. Aseem Malhotra, who's a consultant cardiologist and international best-selling author, Dr. Vikas Gupta, who's a senior neurosurgeon, and Dr. J.A. Jailal, who's a former national president of the IMA. Thank you very much, all three of you, for joining us. Allow me to go to you first, Dr. Vikas Gupta. What do you make out? I mean, let me just ask you some very basic questions. I'm going to ask you questions that viewers will have in their mind first. Dr. Vikas Gupta, as one reads this list of medicines that are so familiar for almost every other citizen, what should be the first reaction? The first question that everybody is asking: have we consumed this?
Okay. It is certainly very concerning that drugs are of not of standard quality, and these are commonly used drugs which people are taking every day, maybe in multiple quantities across the country. Having said that, I would say that this is a proactive action by CDSCO, that is the Central Drug Standard Organization, and they have themselves picked up the samples randomly across the many states, and no patient harm has been reported as such. And as per you mentioned just now, that the companies are claiming these are spurious drugs. So I certainly welcome CDSCO's move that this surveillance should become more rigorous such drugs should be caught more frequently. And these drugs, if at all they are in the market across the country, if there are multiple batches, few batches have been caught or sampled, they should be punished with harsh punishment, and no patient's life should be put in risk. Not that any drug is unimportant. Every drug has significant indications, and they are used. They are cutting across the spectrum from antibiotics to life-saving drugs like for hypertension, for diabetes, and maybe harmless vitamin supplements. So I'll certainly say this is a welcome step. If CDSCO takes
Okay,
more proactive steps, it will be very good for the consumer. Yes, please.
Thank you, Dr. Vikas Gupta. But the fact is, it's their job. Proactive, not proactive, behind the scenes, right in the front, that's their job. They got to do the job that they got to do, and the basic job of any regulator is to ensure that no medicine which is spurious, no medicine which does not match the quality standards should reach a consumer. The question that everybody is asking is, now that these batches have been found that have not met the quality standards, how does an ordinary citizen know that they have not consumed this, or this is not in their homes, or this is not going to be in the government hospital where they're going to be going, or in the private hospital where they're going to be going tomorrow, day after tomorrow, a month from now? Dr. J. Jayala, let me take this question to you, please.
Yeah, I mean, this is only a tip of the iceberg. I'm very surprised to see that we are saying that it is very smaller one. It is nothing harm is going to be taken. They have done an external good job. I think this is not the first time we are hearing this news. And every month and every year, there is so much of spurious drug news are coming out. But every time the CDSCO is going for a sleeping mode, and occasionally they wake up and bring that news like this and say that nothing much is happening. And pharmaceutical industry governance, if it is going to this level, the name which we have gained as a pharmaceutical capital of the world is going to be ruined, because there is no system of governance is there. The drug, where it is getting manufactured, till it is a delivery, and it is a responsibility of the pharmaceutical company to monitor it. It is in an ordinary way. In the postal department, when I am posting a letter, I can trace it where the letter is going. We have a system of computer where we can trace it. And the chips are there in everywhere. And if it's a bulk of drug is manufactured, until where it reaches to the pharmaceutical company has to do that. Yeah. But they are not able to do that. They are not doing it purposefully. Second, the CDSCO, it is poorly powered. The manpower is very less. Each district, there are hardly 1 or 2 drug inspectors, but thousands of shops are there. I think at the present system of governance, it will be impossible for the drug controller to have an examination or control the people. Third, it is not the question of whether it is going to have a fatality to the individual. But if such a drugs are available in the market freely, and what WHO is fearing, the drug resistance, is going to be a rampant problem for us. If the drug is now today taken haphazardly without prescription by any quack, now tomorrow we may not get any antibiotic for a real disease. In our own eyes, the people are going to die. So unless the government is going to come back very actively, proactively, not the word proactively, it is their responsibility. They come out with a system of governance of properly monitoring this, and this is a very dangerous one. There are few drugs which has gone abroad and where it has caused multiple deaths. The actions are not there. But we are shocked by seeing even the companies like Torrent, Sun Pharma is being caught into like this. So something big is there, something serious is there. Definitely this is a time of alarm, and we need to act very swiftly on this.
Absolutely. In fact, it's interesting because, as I said, most of these pharmaceutical companies have gone ahead and said that they don't have any role in the production of these batches, that it is spurious, it is counterfeit, so on and so forth. I mean, an ordinary consumer can't now be really checking the medicines that they buy and think whether this is spurious or not. I mean, let's just look at the news that came in 2 days ago about how there was an entire modus operandi that was busted, about how there were medicines, antibiotics that were mixed with talcum powder and was distributed across states, including government hospitals. That's what we are really talking about. Now, anyway, there is somebody who's under the weather, who's not well, whether for a not so serious illness or a very serious illness. And now the last thing that you require a consumer to go is to have this precarious thought in the head. What are they consuming? Is it real? Is it counterfeit? Is it authentic? Is it given a clearance check? There has to be a system in place. Before I go across to the doctor again, let me just go to Dr. Aseem Malhotra. Dr. Aseem Malhotra, as I understand, you're based out of UK, but you're also coming out with a documentary, and that documentary also looks at how pharmaceutical companies work their way around. Now, Dr. Aseem Malhotra, sitting in UK, how do you look at the situation of what's unfolding in India? Is it an India only specific problem, or give us a global picture? When you look at it with the international standards, how do you look at what's unfolded today?
No, I think it's a very good question you ask, and I would answer it directly and say, no, this is a global problem. And I must congratulate and echo my esteemed Indian colleagues with their comments as well. I think one of the things I'd start with saying, actually, is quoting the editor of JAMA, which is one of the top medical journals in the world. And she said, don't believe anything that comes from a pharmaceutical company. Not a single thing. Don't believe any of it. You start from there. We have unfortunately, this is just one symptom of, a scandalous, if you like, system when it comes to the prescription of medicines. And why is that? We have to understand the root cause of the problem. These drug companies are pathologically self-interested when it comes to making money. Their business model, and this is not being inflammatory, this is based upon very cold, hard facts. Their business model is fraud. So we can't trust them to be giving us the best drugs and to be transparent and honest with the information when it comes to benefit and risks of many medications, if not most of the ones certainly that are being used for the management of chronic disease. I'm not here to throw the baby out of the bathwater. I'm a trained doctor. I've been a qualified doctor, practicing doctor for well over 20 years. And medicines do have a role, especially life-saving medications like antibiotics, for example, and even, emergency heart surgery, use of stenting, medical devices. But now they are out of control. The overall net effect of the drug industry on society is a negative one. And just to give you some very cold start statistics, the third most common cause of death globally now is estimated to be prescribed medications because of unacceptable side effects. This is just really how bad the system
Correct.
is. I think I congratulate the Indian regulator on highlighting this problem, and I congratulate Mirror TV even more on bringing the public awareness to this, because without people knowing exactly what's going on, we can't improve the system. So as my colleague said before, it needs greater transparency and scrutiny. Now, in other countries, and I can't comment on the Indian regulator, one of the major issues that we highlight in the documentary I've just made, First to No Farm, which interestingly is having its US premiere in Capitol Hill. I'm in Washington, D.C. at the moment tonight because we want to show policymakers what's really going on. One of the major issues that's there is that there is no actual independent verification going on of clinical trial data from the drug companies. And therefore, the regulators, you would expect them to do their job. But unfortunately, certainly in the US, the FDA gets 65% of its funding from the pharmaceutical industry. In the UK, the medical regulator, the MHRA, gets 86% of its funding from the drug industry. And most doctors don't know that. I give lectures all around the world, and I gave a lecture a couple of years ago at the British Medical Association annual conference attended by the president of the BMA and the chair of the BMA, Dr. Chan Nagpal. And he was gobsmacked. His jaw dropped. He didn't believe it initially when I pointed out that they get this sort of funding. So the way that the system perpetuates itself is lack of knowledge and ignorance. But once the public become aware, once the media get on top of it, expose this injustice, we can then improve the system.
Right. Important points. Dr. Vikas Gupta, do you want to take it from where this is being left at this point, from what Dr. Aseem Malhotra has spoken? Now, let's look at two aspects of this. If the pharmaceutical companies cannot be trusted for what they are meant to do, and if the quality check processes are broken, are consumers being taken for a ride? Along with this, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked you earlier, because every single consumer will have this question in their mind. What must they do now? Now that these medicines have been found and pharma companies say they are counterfeit, they have not produced these, the watchdog says, listen, these are not up to quality, but the fact is it is out in the market.
Certainly. This is a very painful conversation as a doctor. I consume drugs as a patient for my family. I prescribe drugs for my patients. The patients who have consumed these particular drugs without creating any sense of panic, I would certainly suggest that they should monitor their blood pressure, sugar, or whatever the disease they were taking medicines for, double check with their doctor. And having said that, uh, pharmaceutical companies, as my esteemed colleague Dr. Seem said, they are creatures of commerce. They have to look at their profits. So fortunately, as per my knowledge, our drug controller is not funded by any pharmaceutical company. This is completely government funded. And government needs to strengthen that. In its earlier avatar, it was called Drug Controller of India. Now CDSCO is reassigned as a CDSCO. So I believe that the government should come out more firmly. I completely agree with that. And more samples and more laboratories should be put out so that the fear of testing should be in the mind of, starting from the last point, the chemist, to the drug company manufacturer. As your report was saying that the PRO is not available for comment, this is a very sad state of affairs. This is affecting the health of the people. Some may be getting out of control sugar. Somebody may be having high blood pressure. This is no time for comments or no comments. This is a time for action. These kind of critical drugs cannot be taken for a ride. The Indian population, over 2 billion, is taken for a ride. The government must strengthen the CDSCO more effectively, much more effectively than food safety. And each and every, it's not possible to test each and every sample, but the fear of testing should be so much that the no substandard drugs come in. These drugs are basically not of the standard quality. But we have seen a couple of months ago, or maybe 6 months ago, that there was somebody who was injecting spurious cancer drugs or using cancer oils to fill in water. So all these
Correct.
things needs to be seen in a holistic manner. And I completely agree that the robust mechanism has to put in place. Manpower has to be there. Laboratories have to be there. Infrastructure has to be there.
Dr. Jailal, now, okay, now let's look at just today's case. The findings are there. The samples are there, the batches are there, the details are there, which medicine, which pharmaceutical company, which batch, so on and so forth, an entire list of 53 medicines are there. What next? Because is there going to be any action? Is there going to be any penalties? Is there going to be licenses that's cancelled? From what I can look at, it doesn't look like that, because pharmaceuticals companies are saying we have no role in preparing them. They are saying these are counterfeits, spurious, these are not being manufactured by them. The drug controller is saying these are not up to quality. So this just seems to be another thick cloud which is being built for the consumer to smoke up.
I absolutely say the same, because it is going to be another big cloud that it is we are talking on that. And on the other hand, also our reaction should not be a knee-jerk reaction, because all these companies which have contributed a lot to the medical industry, we cannot say just put them on a blame. And it must be a natural mechanism should be there, and we should find out where exactly the mistake has taken place. But what we can do at this moment, strengthening our CDSCO, strengthening our manufacturing system, strengthening our monitoring system. Second, most importantly, the running of the open or counter sales of the drugs. Now, anybody can get into any shop and get a drug. These drugs are there in everywhere. The pharmaceutical, there is no screening is there. Nobody is there. And no prescription is also there. And without prescription, we are able to get a drug. Now, what I saw is the clavulanic acid is there. It is there. Now, telmisartan. These are the very important drugs. And these drugs also now getting in a counter sales drug, and nobody is there monitoring that. So no prescription audit system is not there. It is not that there. Thirdly, it is not the qualified people are writing. The one profession everyone in India practices the medical profession, that you ask anybody, they will see you drug. That kind of system is there. Any quack, any unqualified person is able to prescribe, able to write a drug that is being honored in the shop. So there must be a overall a comprehensive system or 360 monitoring system has to be developed. We have a good IT sector. We have a good infrastructure in the computer and electronic system. So these can be brought under from the manufacturer to the doorstep of the patient. We will have a system. We can have a system of monitoring, and we should strengthen the CDSCO much more further, that all the prescriptions should be audited. Without prescription, the drug should not be sold. All the pharmaceutical or the pharmacies should be checked and should be under the direct control of the manufacturing, the CDSCO control. And if that has been done, definitely we can regain and we can establish once again India is a pharmaceutical capital of the whole world, as we are producing and supplying quite a lot of drugs. The pain which we have got remdesivir when we were in the COVID time,
Right.
millions of drugs were produced as a spurious drug. So this is an eye opener for us. Let us act with in a comprehensive way, not at the idea of finding fault with someone, but somewhere to restore back that something good can be done to the society.
True, and finding fault is also not wrong. I mean, accountability means finding fault as well. Do we have Manish Bariyar as well as Kamrusman Chaudhary with us?
Yeah, hi Sneha ji, I'm there.
All right. I'm told Manish Bariyar has joined with us. Very good evening, sir. Thank you for joining us. Manish Bariyar, very quickly, there's a lot of political back and forth also. You have the opposition, which is already going on to say that the Modi government is just full of corruption. Will the India of 2047 really rely on fake drugs? And that people's lives are being played with, and it's the lives of people that's at stake. I don't intend to politicize this issue, but I do want very quick political responses from both of our panelists. I hope Kamrusman Chaudhary will join us very soon. Manish Bariyar, all our experts on the panel have said there's a huge requirement to plug the gap. There's a huge requirement to strengthen and fortify the quality testing and the nodal organizations. How is this going to go forth?
Yeah, good evening to you and good evening to the viewers and the panelists. So I was listening to them and I think I would agree with them. But then there are many areas where there is a paradox. I'm sure all of us would agree. India as a pharmaceutical hub, we have given some really quality drugs to all over the world, and to our own countrymen. The drugs are like 1/10 of the drugs which people get in many parts of the world, maybe 1/100th. So we are doing some really, really good job. Now, having said that, let's take up, I would give a parallel. Let's take up a food industry itself. Do you really think that the food industry is really perfect? There are a lot of contaminations out there. So I think we have to look at this from a larger perspective.
Huge, and we have discussed a lot of them, by the way, sir, on this show.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the point I was trying to say that there are deficiencies, and there's no question of politicizing because this entire report has come from a government body. So had the government really wanted to shrug this off and not taken seriously, it would have not allowed these monthly reports to be published. So I think people have to really kind of acknowledge, and I'm not talking only about this government, but even the previous governments. I think every serious government, and all our governments have been pretty sincere and serious as far as pharmaceuticals and drugs and food are concerned. So I'm not really putting blames to others. There is a system, and we are a developing nation. We are someone who are improving day by day, and we cannot really jump or leapfrog to something what's happening in the West. So there are faults in our systems, and which the other gentleman was rightly pointing it out. But having said that, I cannot think in my wildest of dreams that you would really put the blame on the government for such kind of things. State government is responsible in many ways to really keep the checks on these. So that is one. So that would mean that every state government has a certain role to play when it comes to food and safety of all these drugs. And therefore, the onus is also on the particular state governments. That is one. Second, we are not even very clear. For example, I was reading the report. It says paracetamol. Now, that's a generic drug. Which company? We do not know still. And I kept reading the report as far as paracetamol is concerned.
We do know, Manish Bariyar. We know which company, we know which pharmaceutical, all that list is out very detailedly. We have all those details. Even the batch numbers and all have been given out.
Yeah, so paracetamol I couldn't find. But then we also know that there are different qualities of drug based on the pricing, based on the kind of brands and we also understand the deficiency in the pharmaceutical industry itself, where the doctors prescribe on the basis of the kind of commission you
No,
get.
but Mr.
So
Manish
there are
Barrier,
structural-
I mean, pricing cannot really be a reason for not meeting standards. I think that's going into a bit stretch, irrespective of the
I'm
pricing.
sorry.
The
I'm
minimum
sorry, I differ
standards
with
have
you
to
on
be
this.
maintained.
But I have a right to differ on that because we do understand when it comes to food or any
Yes,
consumption which we do. While I agree with you that pricing cannot be the issue as far as quality is concerned, but then these spurious drugs, it could be spurious because the pharmaceutical company, I read a report by Torrent, right? It's there in the 50 countries all over the world and its product has come out there. So it's also a question you have to look at that. Has it been done intentionally to really, defame some companies? Is it some competitors doing it? See, there are larger
Mr.
issues
Jairaj,
involved. So
do you
we
want
just cannot, speak point
Mr.
blank on this.
Jairaj,
And
do you want to
say,
very quickly respond to what Manish Barrier is saying as a former IMA head?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is very, very usual way of politicians doing things and putting the blame on something else and diverting from the issue. We are not talking about who is at fault. We are talking about something which is a dangerous thing is happening to the country. The drugs are going out. If the government is not interested, even at time to come out openly and discuss about this matter and take a serious action, please, this is about the health of the people. This is about something the people are anxious about that. At this
Mr. Jairaj,
time,
no,
the
I
government
want to
should
ask you
come out very
particularly
openly.
about one question as well. While you're making this point, there's also this angle that Manish Barrier spoke about, and that is about medicines that may not, depending upon the pricing, the medicines and their quality vary. But can that be a reason or an excuse for not meeting
No,
the
it's not an
required
excuse.
standards?
In
Is
India,
that
you
acceptable
cannot
in the
say on
medical
the money
field?
basis. You have a generic drug. We have a PM pharmaceutical company. The generic drugs are much cheaper. But if the India government wants, we can make the generic drugs in a cheaper way, but in a quality way. But whether it is costly or whether it is cheaper, the quality is the most important thing which we need to maintain as we are dealing with the life of the people.
Can I
Right,
respond,
right.
Sneha
Dr. Vikas Gupta, I can see your hand raised, but allow me to just very quickly go to Kamruzman, please. He's been waiting very patiently. Kamruzman Chaudhary, please come in. What is there's been a huge load of responses from political opposition parties. They've gone on to say a lot many things. But what is your main concern at this point? The panelist here, Manish Barrier, went on to say, what's the point of sitting up and criticizing the government at this point? At the end of the day, it is a government body that has brought out this list.
Yeah, Sneha, basically, I need to be blunt tonight. We all outraged when the adulterated laddus were found in the Tirupati Mandir. We all outraged because it was against our faith. Now, this is against our life, our health. We take a pan 40. Can you believe, Sneha, it's filled up with talcum powder mixed with starch? That's what the Maharashtra Pune administration found out. Last 2 years ago, I suppose, in Gambia, around 70 deaths were reported after a cough syrup supplied by an Indian company was found to be spurious out there. And we claim ourselves to be the pharmacy to the world. The 42 billion industry of pharmacy industry that we are proud of needs a complete overhaul. And the responsibility lies not only with the industry itself, with the regulators, the CDSCO. What is his role? What is the role of Mr. Rajiv Singh Raghuvanshi out here? What is the health minister, Mr. JP Nadda, doing out here? Why are these drugs reaching our homes, our hospitals? Can you imagine, Sneha, that the drugs have been supplied to most of the government hospitals across the country? And where do the government, what type of patients end up in government hospitals? Do I need to spell this out? These are from the lower stratum of our society, poor people who cannot afford a private hospital treatment. And being in the government, it's your responsibility to provide them with a quality medicines. But what have you done out here? You have supplied them with spurious drugs. If it was not because of the testing that was done, we would not never found out that tonight I might be taking a pendy filled with a talcum powder mixed with starch. That's the reality out here. The buck stops with the health minister, and the health ministry needs to answer what exactly are the steps taken on it, and is there going to be any CBI inquiry or an NIA inquiry into this? That The people who have played with the lives of the innocent civilians in India need to answer and need to be accountable. This is not the time to be living in a state of denial. We need answers and we need action.
Manish Bariyar, very quickly before I go to Dr. Vikas Gupta.
Can I come in for a second?
Yes, please.
Sneha ji, can I come in for a second?
Yes, please, Manish Bariyar. I asked, please.
Yeah. So I would like to just add, I felt that Mr. Kamru Zaman is not aware, and I don't know if he is aware or not. All these medicines, they were never sent to anyone. These were found before they were sold. So I just want to say that all the lectures which we gave, I hope that, and I'm not justifying anything. It could have well gone to the hospitals, but none
Okay,
of
that's a
these
very
batches of
important point.
medicines,
That's a very
these were
important point. No.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a very important point. Let me just very quickly, with Dr. Vikas Gupta, is that correct? These batches, they were found before they were sold. Is that correct, Dr. Jailal,
No,
Dr. Vikas?
I
Would you
can
know
vouch
about
for
this?
that.
According to the information
it was
available
not
in the
done
public
in-
domain. Sorry.
No,
was
hold
in the
it,
public
Manish
domain.
Bariyar. Dr. Jailal, please go ahead.
No, these drugs were collected from the various places in the public domain, not from the manufacturing site. So
I
this
would
is
disagree
already
because
gone
what
out.
I have, what I have read, and if
No,
my
that's
source
fine.
is
Also,
wrong,
Dr.
because I
Vikas.
read it in a national newspaper, right?
I wish
It
to-
said that these were all collected
No,
before they were
this
sold.
isn't about source, because I also have a concern about what you are saying, Manish Bariyar. I do not think it is right, but I'm not countering you right now because I don't have the facts. Dr. Jailal is also former IMA, so he would know this better. I wanted to check on him. Dr. Jailal, would you be able to tell us with authority?
Yes, this is not taken from the company's manufacturing site. It was taken from the. There is a periodical check which will be done in the pharmacy
I'm not
store,
saying
in the
that.
practicing places. They will take the drug and send for the testing. This is a routine practice which is happening. This is not taken from the company and sent for the purchase. So then the company cannot say that it is a spurious drug.
I never said that.
That is
I
why
never
the
said
company
that.
is saying that it was not our
I never said
responsibility.
that.
We have manufactured, we have
I've
sent
never
it
said
out.
that,
It is being
but I never said that. What I'm saying that our audience has the right to know that these were not sold to any public. Please go and check. None of them were sold to public. None
No,
of them were sent
that
to
is an important
hospitals
point,
to-
Manish Bariyar,
and it
and
was
that's what
not
I'm trying to
supplied anyone.
understand. That's
It
what I'm
was
trying to
done before
understand.
it was sent.
Because if it was not sold to public places, no, hold it. This is what I'm trying to clarify at this point. Because if it was not taken from the companies directly, from the pharma companies directly, if it was taken from public consumption places, that means it was sold. At least that's what Dr. Jailal is saying. Dr.
Yes.
Vikas Gupta, would you have
See-
a response to this?
Yes,
See, that is what
certainly. There were random samples collected from the various chemist shops. So it is possible that some batches must have been sold. And that is why companies are saying they are spurious. Otherwise, nobody from his factory would give out a spurious drug. But I wish to clarify one point about the pricing. The price is not and the commissions of the doctor. I take some strong objection to that thing that the doctors write medications for commission. My strong objection to that, with due respect to the senior colleague. The price of a generic drug and a trademark drug is different because the generic drug, the marketing cost is not there. Having said that, the price is controlled by the government. Who stops government from making a uniform MRP? And why should the drug be sold below MRP? The cost of the drug has nothing to do with its quality. You cannot say that a 100 rupee drug is better than 50 rupees drug. No, this is not the way the medicine is practiced. Not at all. So if it is a paracetamol, whatever brand it has to be, the bioavailability has to be the same. Bioavailability means the therapeutic effect on the patient has to be the same. And I have been a doctor for now for 35 years odd. I can confidently say that majority, there may be some black sheep, majority do not entertain MRs for commission. We don't need MRs for commission. We will not write medications for commission. I speak very strongly and I take objection to it very strongly. Somehow we have been vilified. The entire focus has been that they will not give gifts to doctors, this and that. Now the focus should shift to the quality of the pharmaceutical products. The same rigorous things should be applied to the quality of pharmaceutical drugs rather than regulating doctors. We have nothing. We have just a pen and paper. We don't need anything from any pharmaceutical company. They are capable enough. We have worked hard. We don't need any commission from anybody.
Okay. Dr. Jailal, again, a question that everybody will seem to have at this point, and I do not intend to indulge in fear-mongering, but this is a question that citizens have. How would they know if the product that they have purchased is spurious or not? Secondly, if there are random batches that have been found to be counterfeit, spurious, not of quality, but are medicines that are commonly used, how do we know what we are consuming is safe?
There is no way that you can be rest assured that what you are going to take, unless we make the pharmacy which is selling, or the prescription, the drug who is going the prescription shall become a responsible person to take the responsibility that they are able to give the right drug is giving. But that system is not there, because the people can get the drugs in a counter sales, but nobody is going to take the responsibility. And so if that we formulate a system where we can monitor how the drug is traveling, then only we will be able to prove that the drugs are not going there. The second, I will laud the initiative of Honorable Prime Minister, because he started the Prime Minister Yojana, that the scheme of the pharmaceutical drugs, the government pharmaceutical outlet, which we started with the generic drugs. And if there is a much more wide availability of this, such a government outlet is being created, that will also help in a way that we will be reducing the spurious drugs will come into effect. Otherwise, it is impossible, and we do not have a good monitoring system also. As I told earlier, each district will have only one or two drug controller. We cannot manage thousands of pharmacy staffs in a particular district.
Okay. Okay. I have one more question. If you could have that graphics basically on the states that have the lowest standard of medicines. You know, this is some data that we got, and there are certain states, it's up on your screens, that often have the highest number of medicines that do not meet the quality test or the standard of quality that's required. Many of these seem to be in the Northeast as well. And then, of course, you have Punjab, Gujarat and Puducherry as well. Manish Bariyar, Kamruzman Chaudhary, very quickly, how do you look at this?
Can I come back?
Manish Bariyar first, please. Yes, please.
Yeah. So, obviously, you know,
Sneha, is that for me?
In the East, Northeast, Bihar, Jharkhand and West Bengal, the per capita income is very low. People are poor, and I see a lot of you know, pharma companies. They do not have the right kind of let's take up the infrastructure to really manufacture these medicines. And I would again repeat, with the help of marketing and with the help of doctors who are in fact given to commissions, a lot of these drugs, as well as you know, health officials in government departments, these drugs are pushed. These drugs are pushed to the chemist shops, and that's how you know, these drugs are really. So wherever you will find that the government may not be very strong, there's a lot of poverty. I think, and there is illiteracy for that matter. You will find that these kind of drugs will find their way out. This is what is my common observation. And by and large, wherever I have traveled, this is what I have seen,
Chaudhary?
That these
Right,
are being
right.
pushed.
Manish Bariyar, let me just get in Kamruzman Chaudhary as well. We are low on time. I've been able to go to him only once. Kamruzman Chaudhary, please weigh in. It's concerning because when we're going through the list of this, most of these states are from the Northeast. Then you, of course, have mainland states as well, like Punjab, Gujarat. You also have Puducherry as well in the south. But, I mean, how do you look at this?
Yeah, I've traveled extensively in the eastern part of the country along with the northeastern states. And you know, a drug essentially is very difficult to get if it's of a very limited use or a specialty drug in the northeast. But then you get very common drugs. And let's say, even if I had a fever and I've taken some crocin or something this thing, what you call paracetamol, hardly I could find some action on it. I was basically thinking maybe I needed a better antibiotic drug on that. That was my personal experience out here. But then you see the Pune District Chemist Association, they've also brought out a a data point on this, that almost 20% of the drugs that are available in the market are supposed to be counterfeit or spurious. My basic question out here is that what are the state regulatory authority doing? What is the Central Drug Standard Control Organization doing? These are all statutory bodies being constituted only for the one purpose, to keep a quality check on the drugs that the people are consuming out here. So our health sector as a whole, if we take it, needs a lot of reforms. But then, Sneha, I request the government to fix accountability in this case. Otherwise, whatever drugs we are taking, we might feel that we are taking a spurious drug as of now, because talcum powder mixed with starch is the last excuse that I can take with regards to my health.
Okay, we're totally out of time. Let me just go very quickly to Dr. Vikas Gupta as well as Dr. Jailal. Dr. Vikas Gupta, 1 minute to you. Do you want to respond to this dichotomy which we just saw right now? Manish Bharia spoke about how literacy, poverty all have a big role to play. Kamruzman Chaudhary brought about how the regulators, whether it be state or the center, are failing. It's distressing to see that even in medicines, there seems to be discrimination.
I completely agree. As I said earlier, that the regulator needs to be strengthened. There need to be more people in the field. But one tip for the patients, consumers, that how many of us insist on a printed bill, which has a GST number? If we insist on a printed bill and buy from a hospital pharmacy, most chances of getting a spurious drug are very low, because they have a supply chain. The supply, they can trace it back to the manufacturer. The roadside shops, with due respect to them, they serve a huge purpose. You cannot have every branded pharmacy anywhere, but please insist on a receipt which has the GST number. That is one thing for the awareness, I'll say. I have been buying drugs from my own hospital pharmacy. They always provide me the bill, which gives the reassurance at least the supply chain is intact.
Right. I think it's a very, very valid point. Kamruzman Chaudhary, you're raising your hands. Less than a minute to you, please. I have to go to Dr. Jailal after that.
No, I don't disagree with Dr. Gupta out here, but one small correction I would like to make. Most of these drugs that were found mixed with talcum powder, mixed with starch, are from government hospitals, sir. How do you justify that a drug found in the government hospital is spurious? Because the contractors and the thikadars who are supplying these drugs out there are all dishonest, mixed with administrative dishonest officials who might have linked to some higher ups in the ministry. You cannot discount it. So my suggestion out here is that let us conduct an inquiry, and why is the government not eager to order an inquiry into the entire issue?
Okay.
So that doodh ka doodh aur pani
Dr.
ka pani
Jailal,
ho
to the
jaye.
viewer who is concerned, who is worried, what would your words be?
So definitely the public are concerned. Not only public, we as a medical fraternity are very much concerned, because the people are looking at us as a hope. And when we are giving a drug and that drug is coming as in a spurious way, it is not an appropriate drug is coming. It is not the responsibility. We also owe that responsibility for that. So it is our request to the government that proper mechanism should be coming. Government hospital follow a system of low quotation, yellow quotation. That is the worst scenario which is happening, because when 3 drugs, they call for the quotation, whatever the spurious drugs companies are giving the lowest quotation, and that is being approved. That is the reason why all these drugs are counterfeit drugs are finding the place, entering into the government hospital much easier. So there must be a governance system should be improved, so that we ensure the public are happily or fearlessly taking these drugs are getting benefited. And it is a responsibility of all of us, all the stakeholders in the healthcare delivery system.
Right. Well, Dr. Aseem Malhotra had to leave us a while ago, but Dr. Vikas Gupta, Dr. Jailal, Manish Bharia, as well as Kamruzman Chaudhary, thank you very much for your time. We just hope India is going to see a new dawn when it comes to these medicines being consumed. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us.
Thank you.